take a look at several boys as different as they can be and see what they found out about engineering. Here's their class. Our engineers come out of classrooms just like yours all over the country. Some girls take engineering, but it's not a common thing, so let's eliminate the girls.
Hey guys, how you doing? This is our final project presentation for Women and Gender in Science and Technology here at NC State University. We're Team 2, or the Mythbusters as we affectionately call ourselves. Our team consists of myself, Micah Alexander,
Meredith Bullard, Megan Frichty,
and Ian McGregor.
Our final project is focused on inspiring kids with STEM by debunking myths about STEM fields. Like the opening video from the 1950s shows, gender inequalities in STEM were very prevalent in the not-so-distant past. While the last few years have seen great leaps toward equality, we still have a long way to go. This class has shown a number of scenarios in which gender bias is still a very real issue, especially in the sciences. In an article that we read for this class, On the Shoulders of Giants, Dara Horn makes an interesting point, saying that throughout history, a lot of emphasis has been placed on the effects that science has on society, but the effects of society on science are often overlooked. How this gross misappropriation continues to perpetuate in the modern era was very interesting to our team, so we decided to investigate. What we found was even more interesting.
We found inspiration in an unlikely place.
Who's my pretty girl? Sammy, sweetie, don't get your dress dirty. Sammy, sweetie.
Sam, honey, you don't want to mess with that. Let's put him down. Sam, honey, you don't want to mess with that.
Samantha, this project has gotten out of control.
Whoa, hey, careful with that. Why don't you hand that to your brother?
Gotten out of control.
Our words can have a huge impact. Isn't it time we told her she's pretty brilliant too? Encourage her love of science and technology and inspire her to change the world. Encourage her love of science and technology and inspire her to change the world.
This is definitely true for many girls. We seem to have created a culture where we tell girls they have to be pretty, but not pretty brilliant, like the commercial says. This Verizon commercial is just one of many examples of a changing landscape in the modern view of women in engineering. This is the kind of behavior we should be encouraging in young girls, not frowning upon. We looked to one of the articles we read in class, Women in Science Still Given the Short Shrift, which recognized a Yale University study that observed a serious bias against women in science careers. We wanted to look into what caused that and decided to start back at the very beginning, the early school years. These formative years are very important in the development of girls' interest in sciences, and teacher and parent involvement can be very important in encouraging girls to pursue these interests. But there's obviously still a gap. How is the gap created, and is there anything we can do to fix it? We decided to dig deeper into these ideas, and through that digging, we came up with the idea for our project.
So here's what we found when we dug into the literature. Our first source, Think Again, Men and Women Share Cognitive Skills, is a briefing by the American Psychological Association. It states that despite socially preconceived notions, men do not outperform women in science and math cognitive skills, yet a gender gap in STEM fields still persists. Our second source, Sources of Science Self-Efficacy Beliefs of Middle School Students, is a paper published in the Journal of Research in Science Teaching that states that only 25% of high school students take more than 2 years of science courses, and that a student's perceptions of their own abilities in science and mathematics largely predicts their interest and success in STEM disciplines. Our third source, Gender, Race, Ethnicity, and Science Education in the Middle Grades, is another paper in the Journal of Research in Science Teaching. This indicates that gender differences in attitudes towards STEM begin in middle school, and that girls are less likely to perceive their abilities in STEM as adequate. Taken together, these sources suggest that in middle school, girls begin to believe that they are not as good at science and math and lose interest in these subjects, despite the fact that they have the same cognitive abilities as their male classmates. Because they lose interest, they're less likely to take extra science classes in high school, and even less likely to choose STEM fields as a major as they enter school at a university level. These sources make some pretty daring claims we wanted to investigate ourselves in order to hopefully make a positive impact on the future of STEM. We wanted to see if the literature was correct, and if STEM-related gender differences really do exist among middle schoolers. We also wanted to see what middle schoolers think about STEM, and if there are stereotypes and myths that deter students from pursuing STEM. Finally, we wanted to see if self-confidence in science and math abilities indicates whether or not students want to pursue STEM careers.
In an effort to uncover some facts about the supposed gender differences, we asked a number of questions. First, what preconceptions do middle schoolers have about STEM fields? Is it considered fun or boring, easy or hard, cool or lame? Learning about the preconceptions that kids have can teach us how to present STEM fields in an appealing way so that they can cater to the next generation of young scientists and engineers, both boys and girls. Next, we asked how middle schoolers perceive their own ability in math and science and whether these notions vary based on race or gender. Understanding what young people think about themselves and what inequalities are already in place can help us to better understand the current education landscape so that we can more effectively shift the paradigm to promote equality across all genders and races. Finally, we asked what career goals these kids have and whether these vary across race and gender. Understanding what kids find appealing can help us to understand the gender divide around engineering and potentially give us ideas on how to improve the situation. So, now that we have the questions in place, what do we do to answer them?
We decided that the best way to answer these questions was by engaging with the community, and with middle schoolers in particular. We partnered with the engineering ambassadors from NC State to participate in a STEM night in conjunction with Margaret B. Pollard Middle School in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. STEM nights are family events where science and engineering students from NC State travel to various elementary and middle schools around the Raleigh-Durham and Chapel Hill areas to teach young people about STEM and encourage them to explore STEM fields. The volunteers bring fun science and engineering related activities to engage the students and their parents, teaching them about the fun of engineering as well as the innumerable opportunities and applications that engineering offers. The event is set up sort of like a festival with different activities spread throughout the school cafeteria. Students and their parents roam through these activities, picking and choosing the ones they are most interested in. Some of the activities included making a hovercraft, making paper rockets, building towers out of marshmallows and toothpicks, and melting chocolate using LED and incandescent bulbs. Engineering ambassadors partner with volunteers to help run activities and use those activities to explain basic engineering concepts to students and parents. Being a volunteer-run event, STEM nights are always welcoming to new students who want to contribute. As a team of scientists and engineers, we applied our engineering skills to teach the kids, help them with the activities, and hopefully get them thinking like engineers. In addition to an engineering contribution, our team brought something else to STEM night, a unique perspective. Being students in Women and Gender in Science and Technology, we were able to apply what we've learned this semester and look at the activities and the interaction through a lens shaped by societally perpetuated stereotypes and gender biases. From that, we were able to glean valuable information about the gender interactions of young people, specifically in relation to STEM fields. The activity I was supervising at STEM Night was called the Domino Diving Board. It was designed to help students explore the engineering behind cantilevers, which I love because I'm in civil engineering. The goal of the project was to stack dominoes to create the longest diving board possible on top of a wooden block, which you can see in the picture on the right. While the kids were messing around with the dominoes and trying to create cantilevers so that they could extend their boards, I was able to talk to and engage them and some of their parents with engineering and with what they thought engineering really was, who they thought were engineers, and what impacts they thought engineers might have in the world.
My activity was racing cars in a mock wind tunnel. We had several toy cars that students could modify with tape and index cards, and they raced them down a ramp towards a box fan. I challenged the students to make up their own challenges for the activity, things like make the fastest car, make the slowest car, or use only one index card. Many of the students became engrossed in the task, and they made an experiment of it. I tried to ask them questions about how they were planning to modify their cars, what effect they thought the fan would have, or how friction might affect the cars. A few of them stayed longer than the others, so I had the opportunity to learn more about their interests. One of the students came with his mother, who is a civil engineer, so I was able to talk to her for a little while. She said that it was great that students like us were doing outreach events. She brought up the need for getting more girls interested in science and engineering. She also mentioned that she is a full-time mom now because her husband is working for a big pharmaceutical company. She commented that society pressures women to take on the burdens of parenting more than men, and that she wishes families were encouraged to have each parent work part-time. But she was obviously a very positive role model. Her son Axel was determined to be an aerospace engineer. He even signed a declaration of engineering intent on his index card.
That index card is shown on the slide there. My job was to kind of alternate between a hovercraft station where kids attempted to make a hovercraft out of an old CD and a balloon, and a marshmallow toothpick tower station where kids tried to make the tallest tower they could using only those materials. Alternating between these two stations gave me the opportunity to engage with more kids and see how kids reacted differently to different activities. I spoke with a number of the kids and their parents, and I found it very insightful to see how different factors like gender, race, and upbringing played a role in how the kids responded to the various activities.
The goal of the activity I was helping with at STEM Night was to build the tallest structure given 15 marshmallows and unlimited toothpicks. The secret was to use triangles because they are more stable structures than squares. They were able to get a bigger marshmallow for every time they gave me a correct answer to one of my trivia questions. What we saw at the STEM night was very positive for the future of science and engineering. A lot of girls attended the event. In fact, the number of boys versus girls was pretty even. What progress this shows from the current state of engineering classrooms, where as of 2011, only 18% of engineering bachelor's degrees are awarded to women. In a few cases, we saw gender discrepancies, which were probably just based on how appealing the stations looked and how cool the stations next to them looked. Boys were more likely to try new stations that didn't necessarily look the most entertaining. Most kids had at least basic understanding of what engineering was. Some of the boys even mentioned the engineering design process, which they had learned about in their science class. We were able to discuss what engineers do and how they work in teams to solve problems. Boys in some stations were more likely to stay and redesign, while girls were more likely to move on to the next station if it didn't work the first time. When we asked students what their favorite subjects in school were, we found that boys were more likely to prefer math or science, but some girls also enjoyed those classes. When they were asked what they wanted to be when they grew up, boys tended to be more confident and assertive that they wanted to be scientists and engineers, whereas girls seemed more passive and uncertain about what fields interested them. This was rare, but it did manifest itself on occasion. We ultimately decided that parent and teacher influence has a huge impact on girls' decisions to pursue STEM disciplines. Most girls who were very interested in the engineering activities had parents who had jobs in STEM fields when we asked them. Overall, the results of STEM Night were very positive and showed great potential for the next generation of engineers to be one founded on equality.
We wanted to take this one step further and create something to help get the kids more interested in STEM and reach out to more students than the ones we talked to. So we created an informational handout to give at future STEM nights. This pamphlet is something that kids and parents can take home, and it is full of information and ideas to start some interesting STEM conversations. The title of our pamphlet is Why Care About STEM? This slide shows the outside front cover, the back cover, and the second page. On the back cover, we've listed some ideas for parents to get their kids excited about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Activities such as take your kids to the zoo or museum, or exercise their math skills by letting them help you figure out how many gallons it takes to paint their room. We've also included some great resources that are informative and fun, TV shows like Mythbusters and How It's Made, and websites like NPR and kidsahead.com. On the left is the first page of the pamphlet, which defines STEM and puts it in a global and exciting context. To the right is the inside of the pamphlet, which folds out into our myth-busting section. We've busted 4 common myths. Number 1, science and math are difficult. Number 2, I won't use this subject in the future. Number 3, engineering, science, and math are only for boys. And number 4, STEM is neither cool nor fun. We think this handout is informative and positive, and hope that parents and their kids will use it to get more involved with STEM. With dozens of STEM nights held every semester in elementary and middle schools across Wake County, this pamphlet could reach a lot of students. In this way, we hope to turn our volunteering experience into something with a more far-reaching and lasting impact.
So what did we learn from all this? This experience taught us so many different things about the relationship between gender and STEM fields. We learned that while gender biases do still exist, they're not set in stone, and it doesn't take an army to make a difference. To put it simply, kids, both boys and girls, can't develop an interest in something that they don't know anything about. Exposing young people to the cool world of science and technology will help them develop an interest that lasts a lifetime. Using simple tools like STEM nights and informational handouts while we engage with the community, we can help to create a future generation of STEM that is founded on principles. Here are all of our sources for this. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope you all have a great summer.